and welcome back to another Sportsnaut interview. I am Evan Groat, and tonight we are joined by Max Chadwick, who is a college football analyst for Pro Football Focus. And right now, there's a lot going on in the world of college football. We have the transfer portal that is continuing to be a hot topic among college football fans. We had National Signing Day this week, and of course, bowl games are now underway. And so, Max, we're very happy to have you joining us here this evening.
No, of course, Evan. Thanks so much for having me on, man.
So I want to start our conversation out with some of the National Signing Day discussion. We now know where some of these top prospects, are going to be playing football next season. In that top 10 range of top players, top recruits, is there anyone that intrigues you based on their talent and also where they've committed to play football in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a really interesting top 10. You don't have your usual suspects in terms of the schools they're going to. The number 2 player in the country is an edge defender is going to Missouri. The number 4 player is a receiver going to Auburn. Number 6 is a receiver going to Texas Tech. So number 9 right now, at least, is a offensive tackle, the top offensive lineman in the country, Jordan Seaton, who is committed to Colorado. Now, there is rumors that he might decommit and go somewhere else, like Maryland, I've heard, is a school to keep an eye on for him. But right now he's committed to Colorado. DJ Lagway, the number 2 quarterback in the class, he's committed to Florida. So it's really interesting to see, a lot of these guys going to schools that aren't, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Now, don't get me wrong, they still have, I believe all 3 of them have the top 3 classes in college football, in the recruiting class right now. But it is cool to see guys, the top players, go to some schools that you usually don't get those top players. But, the one I think that's most intriguing to me and one I can't wait to see play next year is probably the number 1 player in the country. I know that kind of is like a no-duh answer, but Jeremiah Smith, he has been hyped up as this superstar receiver for a couple of years now. He's going to Ohio State, which we've seen produce elite receivers in the past, like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr. this year, Emeka Egbuka this year as well. He's going to the right school for that. So I'm really interested in seeing Jeremiah Smith. And with all the receiving talent that Ohio State's losing after this year, it stands to reason that Jeremiah Smith might see extended looks in his true freshman season. So I'm looking forward to seeing him a lot next year.
Now, you mentioned, we're used to seeing those usual suspects like Alabama, Georgia, getting those top prospects. And you mentioned some of these guys and where they're going. But is there, when you look at the landscape of college football, is there a particular team that you think has done a really nice job in terms of bringing in these guys for next year that maybe isn't being talked about enough right now?
Yeah, I'm just recruiting-wise, I think, you look at some schools like Nebraska bringing in the number 22 class, Texas Tech number 21. I think they've done a really good job, and, those aren't schools that you really expect to see that high. Auburn right now is the number 7 class in the country. Auburn has 2 5-star receivers going in next year, so that's really impressive for them, too. But, just in terms of who's had the best offseason, I'd be hard-pressed to find another school other than Ole Miss who's killed it more than them. They've done an amazing job. They have a top 20 recruiting class, so that's good right there. But more than that, they have an incredible transfer portal class coming in next year, and they have all of their best players pretty much going back to school next year as well. So to me, I was the high man on Florida State last offseason. I was saying, hey, this is a playoff contender. Keep an eye on them. I had them number 4, my preseason top 25, when everyone else had them around 8 or so, and they ended up being, in my opinion, they should have been a playoff team. I kind of feel the same way about Ole Miss, where it's like, hey, they bring everyone back, and they're adding a lot of great players in the portal. I think this is a team that, could very easily be a top 5 team in the country heading into next season. So Ole Miss, I think, has done maybe the best job this offseason, in my opinion.
Interesting. Good stuff there. I want to shift gears now. I want to discuss the transfer portal, and I want to focus primarily on the quarterbacks because there's a lot of good quarterbacks that were in the portal who have now committed, but there's still some really good players out there. I want to first talk about Oregon. They are continuing to get it done when it comes to bringing in quarterbacks to the portal. Not only did they go out and get a commitment from Dylan Gabriel, who was with Oklahoma last year, they also have a commit now from Dante Moore, who played football with UCLA last year. They're red hot right now. What's your take on the embarrassment of riches right now of quarterbacks at Oregon?
Yeah, no, Oregon's done a great job. Dylan Gabriel is obviously, he was, in my opinion, the top quarterback in the portal, top player in the portal. He had the 4th highest grade in the country, I believe, among quarterbacks this season. So that's a big time get. And then it's amazing that they get the number 1 quarterback in the portal and get maybe the number 3 or 4 quarterback in the portal and Dante Moore. Because, like you said, this is usually with these transfer quarterbacks, they want to go somewhere where they know they're going to play immediately. Dante Moore doesn't know that. In fact, he's probably going to be a backup for a whole year. So he knows that he wanted to go to Oregon. Actually, that was the school that he was committed to before he flipped to UCLA. Now he's finally going back to Oregon. And yeah, I listen, he didn't have a great freshman year, but then again, playing it all as a true freshman should be seen as a success for him. So I still think he has superstar potential. He was a number 3 recruit in the class. He's made some amazing throws this year. I still think there's a lot of potential for him as well. So I think Dan Lanning's killed it, man. I mean, you go from starting your Oregon tenure with Bo Nix for a couple years, now you get Dylan Gabriel for a year, then you have Dante Moore after that. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a coach that started off with 3 better quarterbacks than Dan Lanning will have during his first few years at Oregon.
One of the other top quarterbacks that's still available out there in the portal is Cameron Ward from Washington State. Who are some of the favorites, in your opinion, to land him, and when do you expect a decision to be made from him?
Yeah, I actually was lucky enough to talk to Cam during this season. He's a terrific kid, and it's cool to see him now kind of be this coveted quarterback in the portal because he is a terrific player as well. I think the favorite for him right now is Miami. I think that's a school that has kind of been getting the most smoke with him. There's a picture with him and Mario Cristobal, and even Rick Ross, the rapper, was in that photo as well. I think Miami is kind of the team to beat for Cam Ward right now. There have been rumors about Florida State going after him as well. But right now, I would say Miami is a team to beat for him. And honestly, I think he's going to take his time with this. I think he's still... I wouldn't be surprised if he... I've heard that the NFL draft is still a possibility for him. Like, he's not closing the door on moving to the NFL. I would be surprised if he did that, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did it either. But I do think Miami's a team to beat for him right now, and I think ultimately that's where he'll end up being at the end of all this.
Another one that I think is very interesting to me is Malachi Nelson, who was with USC last year. Now, we're talking about the number 1 recruit in the 2023 class, or last year's class, I should say. Looking to get away from Lincoln Riley here. Most quarterbacks are looking to pair up with Lincoln Riley, but he's looking for a fresh start. What are you hearing about a possible destination for him?
Yeah, he's another one I'm really intrigued by. Like I said, he was a 5-star recruit coming out in that class, and usually 5-star quarterbacks and Lincoln Riley, they go hand in hand. Kyler Murray is a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He transferred to Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, won a Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams was a 5-star recruit at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, went with him to USC, won a Heisman Trophy. So I thought Malachi Nelson was going to do the same thing. I don't know. It's going to be it's kind of weird for him. I've heard some schools like Tulane and Houston. I've heard some schools that really, frankly, weren't that big for Malachi Nelson. So I was a little surprised by that. Now, don't get me wrong. He only played 4 snaps this year. You genuinely have no idea what this kid is like other than what he showed in high school. So there's a lot of projection there. But yeah, I don't quite know where he would end up being. So Malachi Nelson's a really intriguing guy for me. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a school that maybe isn't a big name program just for some development for him to start for a couple of years. Whereas Dante Moore is willing to sit for a year. I think Malachi Nelson is probably looking to play as soon as next season. So I don't quite know what school that will be just yet. But I am very intrigued by him, though, obviously, as a former top 15 recruit coming out of 2023.
Now, I know you're a graduate of Syracuse University, so I'm sure you keep a close eye on the football team. They landed a pretty big quarterback in the portal as well, Kyle McCord. It's been a long time since Syracuse football had a decent quarterback. I think I got to go all the way back to Donovan McNabb in the mid to late 90s for Syracuse. But what do you think about the fit with McCord going to play for Syracuse?
Yeah, no, sorry, you cut off for a second. But yeah, I think Kyle McCord is going to be a great player for Syracuse. I think he's obviously a former 5-star recruit coming out of high school, sat for a couple years behind C.J. Stroud. I think he got a bad rap at Ohio State, man. I really do. I mean, when you watch his tape, there are some big time throws, and you see why he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. And I think he just wasn't. I thought he was a really good, solid college quarterback last year. The problem is when you're at Ohio State, they're used to first-round picks. In fact, the last 3 quarterbacks before Kyle McCord at Ohio State, all of them ended up being first-round picks in C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins. So they're used to superstar quarterbacks. Kyle McCord just wasn't that. I still think he's a really good quarterback, and I think it's a big get for Syracuse. And I think this is a terrific get for Fran Brown in his first year as the head coach. I love this get for Syracuse. I think he's a terrific kid. He's got only 1 year of eligibility left, unfortunately for Orange fans, but I do think this is a really huge get for Syracuse. And honestly, I think a little premature for Ohio State to be forcing him out after just 1 year.